I'm Jeffrey Butler. I'm 72 years old. Last year, I sold a house where my wife Peggy and I raised our 5 kids and spent the money on memories of them instead of leaving it in my will. My children call me selfish, and for a few awful weeks, I thought I'd ruined everything. Let me tell you what happened. It all started to shift at our 45th wedding anniversary party. The backyard was full of our kids and our 5 grandkids, laughter and music everywhere. I was playing my guitar, and it should have been perfect. But looking at our home, the peeling paint, the dated kitchen we couldn't afford to fix, I didn't feel pride. I felt trapped. This house in Forest Hills had been our family's anchor for 45 years, but maintaining it was draining our retirement. We were house rich, cash poor, and just so tired. Peggy felt it too. We smile for everyone, but at night, we just sit in the quiet and feel the weight of it. That feeling of being trapped by my own legacy wouldn't leave me. It followed me around the empty rooms after everyone went home. Then, a few weeks later, my 16-year-old grandson Leo was over. He plays guitar like his old granddad. We were jamming in the den when he showed me a video on his phone. A wild, joyful traditional music session in a pub in Dublin. Fiddles, flutes, the whole place singing. His eyes were lit up like stars. I said, "I'd love to see that someday." He just shrugged and said, "Yeah, maybe when I'm older." That casual resignation was a punch to the gut. My whole life was built on someday. Someday we'd travel. Someday we'd have the money. Someday I'd leave them all something solid. That conversation with Leo was the spark. It made me ask a dangerous question. What if someday is now? I talked to Peggy. She was worried. She was scared of upsetting the kids, but she saw the same exhaustion in me that she felt. We made a plan. We called a family meeting. All 5 of our children came over to the house. I was nervous, but I was resolute. I laid it out. Your mom and I are selling a house. We're buying a small condo. We're going to use a big chunk of the money to do things with you all now. The silence that followed was the heaviest I've ever felt. Then the storm broke. The objections came like waves. "That's our childhood home," my daughter Sarah cried. "What about the grandkids' inheritance?" my oldest David asked, looking worried. "Are you feeling okay, Dad?" But my second oldest, Mark, was the most hurt. He stood up, his face red. He said it felt like I was dismantling the family's foundation, erasing our history. He said I was being selfish. The meeting ended in tears and this tense, awful silence. 3 of the kids stopped calling. Peggy was heartbroken, and that was the worst part. The for sale sign went up in the yard, and it felt like a declaration of war. The low point came about 2 weeks after that sign went up. I was sitting alone in the half-empty living room, my old guitar in my lap. The echoes of my kids playing of holiday dinners felt louder than the silence. I thought, have I made a terrible mistake? Was preserving this place, this thing, actually my duty? I felt despair. I looked at a photo of all of us on the mantel. I feared I'd traded their stability for my own selfish whim. But then I looked at that picture closer. I saw Leo's face. I remembered the light in his eyes, talking about Ireland. And I made one more call. I didn't call the realtor to take the house off the market. I called a travel agent. I booked 2 tickets to Dublin for Leo and me. That act, making something real out of a dream, was like throwing a switch. I felt determined. The house sold. Peggy and I moved to a bright, manageable condo. It was bittersweet, but a weight was physically lifting from my shoulders. We were free. With the proceeds in the bank, it was time to distribute the new kind of inheritance, not with checks, but with envelopes. We gathered everyone again in our new condo. The tension was still there, thick in the air. You could feel it. Then I handed out the envelopes. I was hopeful, but scared. For my daughter Sarah and her wife, a week-long family cruise. For Mark, who shares my love for genealogy, a funded trip to Scotland to trace our roots. And for Leo, I handed in the tickets to Ireland. I said, "This is your inheritance, memories, experiences, with me while I'm still here to have them with you." The reactions were mixed. Sarah looked confused. Mark just stared at his envelope, but Leo's stunned joy was immediate. And soon, he and I were on a plane. Last month, in a cramped, noisy Dublin pub, Leo and I found the session from his video. The music was alive in a way I'd forgotten music could be. It wasn't a performance, it was a conversation. Fiddles, a tin whistle, a bodhran drum, all talking to each other. Leo's eyes were wide, taking it all in. I nudged him with my guitar case. "Well, you brought us here." We didn't just watch. After a few tunes, one of the fiddlers, a man with a great red beard, saw my case and waved us over. "Come on then, don't be shy." So we squeezed in. My fingers, these old musician's fingers, found the chords for the Irish Rover. And Leo, he picked up the melody on his guitar like he'd been playing it his whole life. We played with strangers. We became part of the noise. I looked at his face, pure, unfiltered joy. And he looked back at me with this gratitude I'd never seen before. It wasn't about the trip. It was about us being there, together, in that moment he dreamed about. Over fish and chips later, the noise still ringing in our ears, he got quiet for a minute. Then he said, "Granddad, this is the best week of my life." He said it so simply, so honestly. It wasn't a thank you. It was a fact, and it settled deep in my bones. That's when I knew, without a single doubt, that I'd been right. You can't put a price on that. You can't inherit that from a will. We came home filled with stories, and Leo, he didn't keep them to himself. He told his dad. He told everyone. He showed them videos he'd taken of us playing, of the green hills, of the two of us laughing over breakfast. He was the proof. Mark called me about a week after we got back. His voice was different, not tense, thoughtful. He said, "Dad, Leo won't stop talking about Ireland." He told me about the music, about the pub, about the conversations you two had on long walks. He said he feels like he really knows you now. Mark paused. I could hear him choosing his words. I think I get it now. I was so hung up on the house, on the thing. I didn't see what you were trying to give him. That conversation, it was the shift. The ice thawed. Mark started planning the Scotland trip with genuine excitement, calling me to ask for my genealogy research notes, talking about which castles he wanted to show his kids. He was engaged. He was present. And when the other kids saw that, when they saw Sarah starting to look at cruise itineraries with her family, the mood changed. The foundation wasn't gone. It had just changed from brick to something stronger. It became the stories we were making, not just the ones we'd already told. That's when I understood the real lesson. It wasn't about the money or the house at all. That house was just wood and brick. The real foundation of our family is the love and the time we share. I bought a condo, but I bought my grandson a core memory. I gave my kids stories they can tell their grandchildren. I learned that the best inheritance isn't what you leave behind. It's what you give into the hands of the people you love while you're still here to hold their hands back, while you're here to see their smile, to hear their laugh, to be part of the adventure. So if you're listening to this, feeling a similar weight, I want to speak directly to you. If you're sitting on a legacy, a house, money, possessions that's weighing you down, ask yourself the question I finally asked. Can it be converted into joy today? Can you be present for your own generosity? Don't make your love a postscript. You still have time. My someday was running out, and I almost missed it. Trade a thing for a moment. Start the conversation. It might be hard. There might be tears. There might be anger. There will absolutely be doubt. But the living memories on the other side are worth every bit of that struggle. This, for me and Peggy, for our 5 kids and our 5 grandkids, was my best decision ever. It gave us our freedom back. It gave us our family closer than before. It gave me a week in Dublin with my grandson that I'll carry with me forever. Make it yours. Make it yours. And I mean that. But listen, I need to tell you the rest. I need to tell you about the part that almost broke me, because it wasn't all smooth sailing after that phone call with Mark. You see, the trip started happening. Sarah and her family went on their cruise. They sent photos of the kids by the pool, of them dressed up for dinner. They looked happy. But when they got back, Sarah came over to the condo. She thanked me. She really did. But then she said, "It was amazing, Dad, but it felt weird. Like we were spending our inheritance. Like every ice cream cone was coming out of our future." She was smiling when she said it, trying to make it a joke. But I saw it in her eyes. The guilt. The feeling that this joy was somehow borrowed, not earned. And Mark, he dove into the Scotland planning. He called with questions about our ancestors, his voice excited. But one night, he came over alone. Peggy made coffee, and we sat at our little kitchen table. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I took the kids to see the old house last weekend." My heart just stopped. Oh? Yeah. New owners are doing a big renovation. They've got the whole back porch ripped off. He looked down into his mug. Emily started crying. She said she wanted her old room back. I didn't know what to say. Peggy reached over and put her hand on his. "I tried to explain it to her," Mark said, his voice tight. "I said Grandpa was giving us adventures instead." And she just looked at me and said, "I don't want an adventure. I want my treehouse." That treehouse. I built it with Mark when he was 10. We spent a whole summer on it, and now it was probably in a dumpster. Mark looked at me, and his eyes were just lost. "I know this is what you wanted, Dad, and I'm trying, I really am. But sometimes it just feels like we traded something solid for something that evaporates. A memory isn't a room you can go back to. That night, after he left, I sat in the dark in our new living room. Peggy had gone to bed, and all of it, the doubt, the guilt, the fear that I'd been selfish, came crashing back down on me. It was heavier than before, because now it was mixed with their confusion. I'd been so sure. That trip to Ireland with Leo had felt like a miracle. But what if it was just a fluke? What if for the others, it was just a confusing, guilt-tinged vacation they couldn't fully enjoy? I felt like I'd taken a sledgehammer to the family home, handed everyone a piece of the rubble, and called it a gift. The worst moment came about a month later. It was a Tuesday, just an ordinary Tuesday. I was doing my genealogy research at the little desk in our condo, looking at some old ship manifests from Scotland, trying to find more details for Mark's trip. And I found something. A passenger list from 1842. There was my great-great-grandfather, Alistair Butler, age 25, occupation, carpenter. And right below him, his wife Eleanor, age 23. And on the column for remarks, it just said, infant son, deceased at sea. I stared at those words, deceased at sea. This young couple, leaving everything they knew, chasing a new life, and they'd lost their baby on that terrible voyage. What had they been thinking, leaving their home? Was it worth it? What kind of inheritance was that? Just pain and loss carried to a new shore? And then I thought of Mark's words. Traded something solid for something that evaporates. Was that what I'd done? Given them a shiny trip that would fade and taken away the solid ground under their feet? I put my head in my hands. I cried. Not loud sobs, just this quiet, defeated leaking of tears. I'd been so arrogant. I thought I was so wise, breaking with tradition. I called it an inheritance of experience. But maybe it was just a fancy way of saying I'd spent their money on a good time. Peggy found me like that. She didn't say anything. She just pulled over a chair and sat next to me, putting her hand on my back. After a long time, I showed her the passenger list. She read it, her lips moving silently. Then she looked at me. Jeffrey, she said, her voice so soft. Do you think Alistair and Eleanor ever took their other children back to see the ocean? The question surprised me. What? They suffered a terrible loss because they left. The ocean took their baby. But later, when they had more children in America, do you think they ever stood with them on a beach and told them about where they came from, about the courage it took? Or do you think they hid them from the water because the water only meant pain? I didn't have an answer. You gave them the ocean, Jeffrey, she said. Yes, the house is gone. That's a loss. It's okay for them to grieve that. But you're giving them the ocean. You're showing them how to sail. Mark is afraid because he's only ever known the shore. But he's packing for the trip. He's still going. That takes courage too. She was right. He was still going. Even with his doubts, even with his daughter's tears, he was still taking his family across an ocean to see where they came from. He wasn't hiding from the water. That was a turning point. Not a big moment. Just my wife in our quiet condo, helping me see it differently. The inheritance wasn't the trip. It wasn't the memory. It was the courage. It was showing them, while I was still here, that it's okay to leave safe harbor, that the solid ground isn't always a piece of land. Sometimes it's the deck of a ship if you're on it together. I've been looking for proof in their instant perfect happiness, but the proof was in their engagement, in their planning, even in their conflicted feelings. They were feeling it. They were alive to it. They weren't passively waiting for a check after I was gone. They were wrestling with a real, messy, alive gift right now. And I was here to see it, to talk about it, to say to Mark, I miss the treehouse too. To say to Sarah, the ice cream cone is just an ice cream cone. Enjoy it. That's what I bought, not just tickets. I bought myself a front row seat to their lives while I still had a seat to sit in. That's what I bought, not just tickets. I bought myself a front row seat to their lives while I still had a seat to sit in. And let me tell you, the view from here is beautiful. Here's what I understand now, what I wish I'd understood 10 years ago. That house on Quiet Street in Forest Hills was never the foundation of our family. It was just the container. The foundation was always the people inside it, the noise, the chaos, the music, the love. I was so busy preserving the container, polishing the wood and fretting over the roof, that I almost missed my chance to be with the people. I was treating my love like a museum piece, something to be carefully maintained and then passed on after I was gone. But love isn't a museum piece. It's a living, breathing thing. It needs to be fed, to be exercised, to be shared in real time. I was wrong. I thought my duty was to leave them a thing. My real duty was to give them my time, my attention, my presence, while I'm still fully here to give it. That trip to Ireland with Leo, that wasn't me spending his inheritance. That was his inheritance. And I got to see him open it. I got to see the wonder on his face. I got to be part of the story. When Mark takes his family to Scotland next month, I'll be the one he calls when he finds the old churchyard. I'll get to hear the excitement in his voice in real time. That's the gift. That's the real legacy. It's not a static thing they get later. It's a dynamic, living connection we build right now. So here's my direct advice to you, especially if you're around my age, sitting in a house that feels too big, or staring at a bank statement that feels like it has to be a monument. Ask yourself this one dangerous, liberating question. What are you saving it for? Is it for a someday that might not look the way you think? Is it for a version of your family that exists only in the future after you're gone? Don't make my first mistake. Don't make your love a postscript. Convert that asset into an experience. Trade square footage for shared laughter. It doesn't have to be a trip to Europe. It could be taking all the grandkids to a theme park for a weekend. It could be funding a family reunion at the beach house. It could be as simple as paying for everyone's dinner once a month for a year, so you're guaranteed that time together. The point is to be present for your own generosity, to see the joy it creates, to be part of the memory, not just the memory's origin story. It will be hard. You will have doubt. Your kids might react like mine did, with fear, with confusion, with anger. They might grieve the solid thing they thought was theirs. Let them. Sit with them in that. Explain it, not as a rejection of tradition, but as an embrace of a deeper connection. Tell them you want to build the next chapter with them, not just leave them the book. The shift might not come overnight. It took a trip to Dublin and a heart-to-heart with my wife in our quiet condo for me to really see it. But it will come. You still have time. I'm 72. Peggy and I are in our cozy condo, and our calendar is full of plans. Plans with our 5 kids and our 5 grandkids. We're not waiting. We're living our legacy day by day. The wait is gone. In its place is this incredible light feeling of freedom and connection. We're not just parents and grandparents anymore. We're fellow adventurers. We're giving them the ocean, and we're sailing on it with them. This channel is full of stories like mine. People who've lived a little and learned a lot, sometimes the hard way. If this story of an old musician from Charlotte selling his house and buying a plane ticket hit home for you, I'd be honored if you'd subscribe and hit that notification bell. There are more stories here, more hard-won wisdom that might spark something for you. And I'd really like to hear from you. Leave me a comment down below. Tell me, what's the house in your life? What's the thing you're clinging to out of duty that might be converted into joy? Or, if you've made a similar leap, tell me about it. Did your family think you were crazy too? If this idea of trading things for time resonated with you, hit the like button. It helps these stories reach more people who might need to hear them. And please, share this with someone, a friend, a parent, a sibling, who might be feeling that same heavy weight of a deferred dream. Maybe you have your own story, a lesson you've learned that could help someone else navigate this complicated, beautiful stage of life. There's a link in the description where you can submit your own story. Maybe yours will be the one that gives another person the courage to make their best decision ever. A book that helped me frame all this, that made me feel less alone and wanting something different, is The Gift of Years by Joan Chittister. It's not about money or houses. It's about the freedom and potential of getting older. I'll put a link to it in the description too, if you're interested. Don't wait for someday. Your someday is now. The best inheritance you can leave is a living one. Your laughter in their memories. Your hand in theirs on an adventure. Your presence in the story they'll tell long after you're gone. That's what matters. That's what lasts. Go call someone you love and start planning your own Dublin.